Integrated resorts promise tourism growth, jobs, and a boost to local economies. NUSTAR Resort and Casino, the Philippines' first integrated resort in the Visayas and Mindanao, now marks its third year. A flagship development of Universal Hotels and Resorts, Inc. under the Gokongwei Group, NUSTAR partners with Robinson's Land for hotel and mall operations. Amid tougher competition and a changing economic landscape, we speak with NUSTAR's new Chief Operating Officer, Shawn Knights, here on Thought Leaders. Good to have you with us, Shawn. Thank you so much for joining us and welcome back to Manila.
Thank you so much, Cathy. It's wonderful to be here.
And congratulations, you're in your third month on the job. So how's it been like?
It's been good. No, it's been a massive learning experience. You know, my previous experience has been in Australia and Singapore, but the Philippines provides another opportunity to learn and apply what I've learned over the last 25 to 30 years into this market.
It's interesting that you actually took a leap of faith there, because that change is also a change in the kind of a market that you're now trying to understand, an emerging market. You've been working with developed economies, and right now it's an emerging one. So what are you finding out so far in your 3 months?
The one thing I've learned so far, Cathy, is that there's so much opportunity in an emerging market. In a developed market, there's already a pre-established sort of baseline. Whereas with an emerging economy, an emerging market, the opportunities are there when you recognise it. I think that's part of my learning for the first 3 months.
And that kind of learning extends to which kind of industries? I mean, we're talking an integrated resort here, so there's a lot of ways to seek revenue or even find revenue. What are you finding is the most profitable?
Oh, look, I mean, the gaming element is always the greatest driver to profitability. But the beauty of an integrated resort is that it harnesses food and beverage, hotel, that entire hospitality element, as well as retail and MICE opportunities as well. That's
the conventions and exhibitions that is quite significant, because it's the biggest exhibition center you have in the Visayas and Mindanao.
Correct.
In 2,500 square meters of space.
Correct. And the beauty of that is that it's a revenue multiplier, and not just for NUSTAR, but for the region. We now have a product that we can use to leverage visitation from overseas organisations, groups, companies, to hold their MICE activity at NUSTAR and the broader Cebu market.
Well, give us some context. You've arrived 3 months ago, but then the integrated resort's been there for 3 years, coming out of COVID, and whatever it's been over the past 3 years as the new normal.
Yep.
How's it been like over the past 3 years
well,
for the resort?
If you step back and think, well, the journey started probably 8 years ago with the issuance of the license. And then, 2018 into 2020 with the breaking of ground, the property opened in 22 with part of the casino, part of the hotel, and some food and beverage to open. Over the last 3 years, we've seen the complete Philly hotel open, the whole gaming area open, all retail, all food and beverage. And there's still opportunities for us to continue to expand. A third hotel is now under construction. We've just opened last week, NUSTAR Hotel, the ultra luxury hotel that sets the bar now for not just Visayas and the Mindanao region, but I think for the broader Philippine market as well.
How are you coming to understand your market? The folks that are visiting the property, what are they doing? Are they shopping? Are they playing? Are they just there for family or coming alone?
All of the above. So we have about 80% of our traffic Cebuano, which is a tremendous experience or a tremendous testament to the property and how it's engaged with the community. But you're right. Whether it's gaming, family, we are a destination for people to enjoy, and we don't shy away from the fact that we are a premium destination, because it's a premium offering, it's a premium experience, and it's also a premium service that we provide to every customer that walks through the front door.
What about the visitor arrivals from overseas? What's the foot traffic looking like compared with the locals?
We're still heavily influenced by the locals. The fact that domestic travel with the Filipinos is now ahead of what it was pre-COVID, whereas the international travel is still down on the pre-COVID levels. I think we're still only about 2/3 the way through, or 2/3 of where we were pre-COVID, which is, it's a massive gap that we need to fill. And we're actively working with the airport, the ports, and other travel industries to try and open new markets, generate additional inbound traffic. So I think that's a value add, not just for NUSTAR, but for the Philippines as a whole.
And you're discovering there's a lot of dependencies there in order to achieve your goals. How are you coming along those?
Look, I think my goal is to ensure that the team have the tools they need to deliver not just the experience, but the products that the customers are looking for. And we continue to explore what those opportunities are. For example, by the end of, or probably midway through next year, we'll have a new water park open for the family traveller or the family travellers. In a year and a half, year's time, we'll have a new theatre, the first of its kind in Cebu, or the only one of its kind in Cebu. So I think those value adds to try and broaden the market, as well as ensure we're trying to capture as much of that market as possible, whether it's local, domestic, or international, is one of our key aims.
So build them and they will come. So you're telling all the multi-stakeholders, hey, you got to speed up what you got to do so that everybody's going to come.
I think the one part in the middle, though, is build it, tell them, and they'll come. I think we need to be proactive in telling people who we are, where we are, and what we are. I think that's part of another challenge.
Interesting that you mentioned that there is a process there, but when you compare an emerging market with a developed one, is that also how you've come to build and maintain business in places like Australia or maybe even Singapore?
Yeah, correct. Because sometimes it's not necessarily the developing nature of the market. It's actually having the right product that people are looking for at that point in time, and ensuring that the product you provide is as broad as you can possibly make it, to ensure that you're giving as many opportunities for customers to come to you.
Let's talk about those revenue streams. You've got gaming, entertainment, events, shopping, dining.
Correct.
All in one property.
All in one property.
So that's what an integrated resort is like. It's a new concept for the Filipino. What are you seeing as the biggest revenue drivers when it comes to the locals, specifically to the Cebuano?
I think the customer, we spend a lot of time on customer segmentation and providing that the local market with an appealing product. The appealing product doesn't have to be gaming. We're trying to understand what the customers are looking for and ensuring that we're tailoring the message to the particular customer, because it's at the forefront of what we do. If we don't get the customer message right, if we don't get the customer offer right, we don't work.
So what's the messaging like then? I mean, if gaming is not out there in front promoting the resort, how are you messaging the kind of client that you want to invite into the property?
Well, I think it's all about leveraging not just what's occurring in Cebu, but what's occurring in the broader Philippine market. We look to leverage on key events, key occurrences, with a degree of respect to what the day is all about. For example, Mother's Day. We leverage our food and beverage offer for families to bring mum in to celebrate a wonderful occasion with the mothers of Cebu and the Philippines. But that's just one example, Cathy, of how we communicate with that customer set.
So that's one. So that's mom and maybe the kids. But if you wanted to invite the whole family and then try and pick and choose which ones probably go to gaming and probably the ones who go to the event, how do you do that?
We try not to get too detailed, because it's about generating that broader traffic. I mean, we will use our customers' preferences to denote the invitation. So, for example, a recognised gaming customer will still get an invite for Mother's Day, but it might be more closely aligned to a casino promotion. A hotel customer will be more aligned to a hotel stay with food and beverage. A family will be leveraged around time zone or the activities that we have in the mall on level 4 or level 3 and 4, where the kids are first and foremost to mind. So it's enabling us to drive or to leverage each particular segment of the market and ensuring that the message is tailored to each.
So among the revenue drivers I just mentioned, which ones are coming out on top so far?
Well, gaming is always a stronger performer, and it's also the one that provides the greatest margin to the company. But that doesn't. That's not to put or to undervalue the benefit of hotel and food and beverage, that hospitality side, because without hospitality, it's very, very hard to drive that gaming customer. Because we're more than just a casino. We're more than just gaming. We are a complete package, and that's something that we're very eager to communicate through.
Talk to us about the gamers. Are they mass gamers? Are they VVIP high rollers? And where do they come from? From Cebu, or maybe from Mactan, or overseas?
Well, I think, again, all of the above. I think, the mass gamer and the premium mass gamer is generally Cebuano and Filipino with some international traveller. The more premium rolling side, or what we call the international customer, they're coming from Northeast Asia, Southeast Asia predominantly, with a greater focus on China and Korea. Some out of Japan, but really the first two are the primary markets.
Visitor arrivals, so from China, how are they looking? Because there's been a recent drop.
Correct. So I think the international visitation to the Philippines, to the first 4 months of this year versus the same period last year, we're down about 0.8%, which is okay, which in a tough market might seem reasonable, but in that number, the Korean market or the Korean travellers down 18%, and the Chinese travellers down 34%. Now, given that they are two key markets in that rolling or that VIP segment, that does provide some challenges to overcome.
How are you overcoming the challenges then?
Well, I think it's exploring new markets. It's ensuring you've got the right people in the right place, and that we're trying to open up new markets. But again, we've got to be very, very sensitive that whilst we can talk freely in the Philippines about gaming, or to a degree about gaming, in other countries that's not so. So we just have to be culturally sensitive about who we're talking to and where we're talking to.
So which ones then? Are you trying to invite if the Chinese and the Koreans aren't really coming in droves to the resorts?
I think the Southeast Asian customers, so Singaporean, Malaysian, Indonesians, and the Thais are still travelling. I mean, Thailand's an interesting case because they're now moving through the throes of licensing a casino or more in that market, which will provide both competition and opportunity. And the reason I say that is similar to how when Macau opened in the mid-2000s. There was a fear at the time that it would just suck the life out of the surrounding markets, including the Philippines at the time. But what actually occurred is that it actually created a new market that hadn't experienced casinos before, and that Macau adventure continues today.
And is now being looked at in the context of Thailand, which you're seeing both as competition and opportunity. So what sort of an opportunity then would Thailand give, being a Southeast Asian neighbor?
Well, there's a lot of people in Thailand who've never experienced a casino before. And when people experience casinos, they'll experience it once or twice and then start to look around to experience another casino in another location, which is what we experienced in Macau, or when Macau opened. The Chinese travellers started to travel. And that added a huge benefit to the Philippines, other Southeast Asian countries, Australia even as well.
But it's also nuanced in a way. Gaming in your property is both traditional, the casinos that we know,
yep,
and electronic.
Correct.
What's the differentiation, and what kind of a market are you attracting in both?
It's funny. It changes by market. So, for example, the customer coming out of Australia they're probably more balanced between tables and machines. The customer coming from Macau and China is more geared towards tables. The Korean customer is probably more tables, but they're slowly starting to shift. The Philippine tends to be more geared towards machines, slightly more geared towards machines. Certainly, what the experience that we're seeing in Cebu is that there's a greater element of machine play, which is beneficial, because we enjoy a greater margin out of that product than we do tables.
It is reflective of what Pagcor came out on when they tried to show how much of an impact electronic gaming had versus the traditional casinos. But then there had been the big issue over the pogos. When it was outlawed,
Yes.
there went the market,
Yes.
and there went also the gaming revenues for
Well,
traditional
that's it.
casinos.
Well,
They're licensed, but then got also affected by the rule that pogos have to leave the country.
correct. Well, I think let me just clarify from a prior comment. In my mind, electronic gaming is gaming machines, but I think what Pagcor were talking about the other day is more the online gaming, which over the past 4 or 5 months, as you say, with the removal of pogos from the market to become a PIGO, so PIGO market, where they're focused purely internally. And what that's done, and you'll continue to see massive growth in that market because you're now pushing gaming out or making gaming accessible to anybody, anywhere in the Philippines, irrespective of how remote you are. If you have a signal on your device, you can game. Whereas we are a destination. You have to come to us, physically come to us to be able to partake.
And you said that the margins were bigger in electronic gaming.
On the e-gaming, yes.
On the e-gaming, but you want to let people come to your property, but then there's e-gaming. Is there a movement towards luring them to do the traditional casinos?
Well, we've got to be careful that we're not seen to entice people too heavily. You know, it's finding that balance, but I think what you'll find, Cathy, the opportunity is that, and similar to that Macau model we spoke about previously, with more people now becoming familiar with casino games, there's an increase in likelihood they'll look for the more traditional model in the properties.
And also what responsible gaming really sounds like in an integrated resort. So how do you educate them without being so out there, upfront, in your face? You got to be responsible when you spend your money in a casino.
Well, I think it's part and parcel of our social license. You know, we are here to both work within, but also to support the community. And sometimes people do get into difficulties with gaming. Our role is to assist people to identify that and assist them through that journey. Sometimes it's for the betterment of both the customer and the casino that the customer takes a break, and we will assist them all the way through that journey.
And in a resort, so they got something else to do.
Correct.
Apart from gaming.
Correct. So we can. So part of the beauty of us is that if you choose to self-exclude, it is just a casino. So you can still, you're more than welcome to come into the F&B, the hotel, the mall, but we will ask you not to come into the casino environment.
Gross gaming revenues then, where are we at and where do you want to be in, say, the next 1 or 2 years?
Gross gaming, it's going to be interesting. I mean, gross gaming revenues, the market's changed dramatically even in the last 6 months. I think there's a heightened degree of uncertainty now, and it's not necessarily tied directly into the US market, but I think it's potentially a precursor. With the on and off tariff movements across there, it's creating business uncertainty in the US, and the US is still the financial engine of the globe. If they start to falter and there's a recession created, it does have the potential to ripple out to the broader industry, including into the Philippines and the casinos.
Is that sentiment-wise? I mean, I would have expected people will want to go to a casino maybe to, let off steam because of all the pressures that they're facing and all the problems, Well, so it's kind of a double-edged sword.
It is. And it's often said that casinos are recession-proof. However, I would counter that by saying that people should just game what they can afford. But I'd also say that it'd be foolish to rely on that as a planning model. To rely on the fact that we may be recession-proof in a recession. That can't be part of your investment strategy or your future-looking strategy.
So it's in a holding pattern then. Your GGRs really dependent on what happens next in the global space.
Correct. But we are looking for every opportunity, whether it's local, domestic, or international capital.
Which gets us to the hotels and the number of keys that you intend to have in maybe the next year, because
Correct.
you're launching the Grand Summit.
That's it.
How important is that to the whole integrated resort concept and to the revenues? Because it is one of the multiple revenues that we just mentioned.
Correct. Well, I think it's critical. I mean, Grand Summit is absolutely critical to our future, as is Philly and NUSTAR, because they actually appeal to different parts of the market. You know, Philly was the 5-star hotel that we opened first. NUSTAR is now our ultra luxury. By the time we open Grand Summit as a 4.5-star at the end of next year, that'll represent about 1,000 keys. But each will appeal to a different segment of the market. When you combine that with the fact that we'll have a water park, we're likely to see more families staying in Grand Summit to use the water park and the other features around the property. NUSTAR will attract a more a richer customer, for want of a better term, who is more likely to game or to shop in the retail precinct or to enjoy fine dining at Mott 32, for example. The Philly customer will bridge the two. You know, I think that's that bridge that we're looking for, and I think that will then complete the property with 1,000 keys.
So which market are we looking at? Is this local market, the affluent market in Cebu, or the Visayas? This doesn't even include the foreign tourist arrivals.
No, it does. So what I'm saying is that the three casinos, or the 3 hotels combined, gives us the potential to market NUSTAR as a broad hotel offering to locals, to domestics, and to international customers.
But it also says a lot about the market, the local market in the Visayas, not only Cebu, but also Mactan, because there's a lot of affluence.
Correct.
in these spaces. I mean, we often talk about Imperial Manila, as it were,
Yeah.
but then there is a market. But define for us what that is, that affluence, who would spend a little bit more extra for that kind of luxury, maybe on a weekend.
Well, that's it. Look, there is a lot of affluence in Mactan and in that broader Cebu city region as well. And the competition in Mactan is only going to increase in the coming months and years with other casino operators coming into that region. But I think, again, I don't shy away from competition. I think it's an opportunity to open new markets. You're right. That luxury, or that more moneyed customer is looking for something different. And I think at the moment that's where we set the tone. We set the tone as that key point of difference.
Well, they're spoiled for choice. You just mentioned competition in neighboring islands, Mactan,
Yep.
Boracay by Alliance Global Group.
Yep.
And then there's the integrated resort and casino in here, Quezon City.
Okay.
Solaire Resort North. That's also competition, even as it's far away, different region. But hey, what's the value proposition then of NUSTAR if you're considering it not competition but a complement?
Well, I think the perspective is that we, you know, the Gokongwei Group, you know, in a key strategic decision-making process, opened the first AR in the Cebu, Visayas, Mindanao region. That allowed us to really set the agenda for the competition to come through. Now that gives us not just a degree of freedom to drive activity, but also responsibility to ensure that what comes after is actually a value add to the region. You know, companies won't be spending a lot of money investing into Mactan if they want to compete with NUSTAR, but they don't provide a similar product. I think it's actually a value benefit for that broader Cebu market.
So it's a complementation then.
Correct.
You're offering something else that competition isn't.
Correct. And I think the other point to make is that Cebu is a key holiday destination for other Filipinos outside of Cebu City, for example. The choices that will be made will only increase as more competitors come to the market, thereby actually potentially pulling activity away from Manila or other parts of the country into Cebu.
Which brings us to retail, because that's also another revenue driver. And you are hosting a lot of luxury brands. We've seen them in the property. It's betting on Cebu, the world's coveted brand, selling items that are probably not found, maybe even in Manila.
Correct. I mean, look, from LV to Celine to Dior, the Bulgari, we do have a lot of premium brands. But we actually try and bridge that by offering not just the premium brands, but also that next tier down. And I think we do it very well. We work very closely with our partners to ensure that they're happy with where they're at with NUSTAR, that we're driving as much activity into their store environments as we can, and also working with them on partnerships and promotions, not just to benefit the NUSTAR, but them individually.
But who's buying them? What are you seeing then in the cash registers? Like, are they folks from Manila who want probably something unique that can't be found here in Manila, but can be found in NUSTAR?
Well, it's the retailers. Some of the retailers maintain their own retail network, so we can't actually see the customers. But anecdotally, yes, we do get a lot of activity and interest from the Manila region, but predominantly it's Cebuanos or people from the Visayas Mindanao region that are coming through, because it's very, very hard, or it has been hard in the past, to secure that type of premium product without having to travel a long way.
And you mentioned Mindanao. There is a huge market there,
Correct.
Affluent market that have a desire for these items.
That's it.
Is it a totally different market? How are you understanding Mindanao?
Well, I think we take a holistic view of that whole Visayas Mindanao region. And again, I come back to, we try and tailor to our customer knowledge through what we have on the books, and understanding what's driving the customer and who we're actually talking to. That customer from Mindanao is looking for a similar environment or a similar experience to what the local customer is, and that's that really premium product and experience.
So are there going to be new retail concepts then coming soon?
Potentially, Cathy, potentially, yeah. We're always looking at new opportunities with new retail clients, but at the moment we have a very high percentage of utilisation, but we're always talking to potential customers or potential clients who may want to come in.
What about the foreign tourists? Are they buying, and what are they buying?
It's interesting. There's always, the LV is always a very, very popular item for the international traveller, and they can be price conscious as well. So sometimes they'll come to the Philippines because the currency, the exchange rate actually works for them, to buy a slightly cheaper product in the Philippines than in Hong Kong or Macau or Singapore.
They probably haven't even heard about the value-added tax-free status, but what impact has it had so far? Because it's been a month past.
It's hard. I think it's been too short a time to actually be able to measure it. But we are starting to see a slight uptick in retail sales, whether that's that value-added tax or something else in the market, we don't know.
But in your experience, you've worked in developed markets. If it's tax-free, does it get people shopping for products within the resort?
Correct. But what I also know that there's generally a 3-month window once a new initiative comes into the market, and whether it's gaming, hotel or retail, you don't get a good read for about 3 months to give people enough time to recognise that that's in place now and it's not going away. That's when you can actually start to measure the benefit.
I wanted to talk about the infrastructure, but first the ease of maybe travel for a regular tourist. When you talk about visa processing, it's not that seamless. Not as seamless as just presenting your passport, maybe having that visa application. There's a lot of steps and processes.
Yes.
In what way do you think this is keeping foreign travelers from choosing Cebu as part of their itinerary?
It's a hard question to answer, because if people are electing to come to Cebu, they're not going to not come because the visa process is complicated, or it's a complex or document-driven process. I think if you start to apply charges to visas, if you make it more expensive for customers to actually come to Cebu or to the Philippines, that's when you start to hit some hurdles in terms of your international traveller.
Right. And when you talk about airports, I mean, you want to make sure that when you land, it's just as seamless. But as you know, Mactan International Airport is undergoing a refresh.
Yep.
So that's a good part. The Cebu-Cordova Link Expressway is now taking in double the vehicular traffic since its launch in April 2022.
Yep.
What role do you think does infrastructure play? And are you feeling that there might be a need to expand at this point, build, and there will come some more?
I can't underestimate to you or undervalue the infrastructure that we need to drive, or the infrastructure development, Cathy, because that will become that next value add to the customer. You know, at the moment you can come over one of 3 bridges from the airport to NUSTAR. There are 2 older bridges and one brand new bridge. The former 2 take you through the downtown area, and you have a dichotomy of experiences from the well-off to the not so well-off, back to the well-off, back to the not so well-off, and it really paints a picture for some customers coming through. Whereas I think with a bit of investment in that infrastructure, particularly with the spaghetti cable or the spaghetti wires overhead, I know that we're now starting to talk about sending those cables underground, which I think will be a great improvement. You know, we started to make those investments in the infrastructure, and I think we start to take Cebu forward.
You've noticed that in your 3-month stay, the spaghetti cables. I thought I was mishearing that.
No.
But it's fresh eyes, really, looking at an emerging market. And also with a time, well, the economy's grown past 6%, maybe 3-4 years ago, but it's now sub 6%, one of the fastest growing still in the ASEAN. But then there is a slowing trend. What impact might this have on the propensity for maybe the locals to want to spend extra for maybe an integrated resort? And what are you doing to ensure that you capture whatever they're willing to spend?
Well, that's right. With any we're not immune from any downturn. But I think the beauty of the IR is that it almost provides a one-stop shop. You know, whether you're a hotel, or you're looking for a hotel stay, an F&B experience, you know, a bit of gaming, you want to come shopping in the luxury malls. We are the one-stop destination where you can accomplish all of that in one place. I think that's what sets us apart from some of the other competition, whether it's in restaurants or hotels or malls that we provide.
So it's slow growth proof?
It provides some insulation from that slow growth. Not slow growth proof, but there's some insulation there.
So what does that mean then for the deployment of your funds, your CapEx? Because there's a plan of spending 10 billion pesos over the next few years. How's that going to go for your property alone? What's like the deployment going to look like?
Well, I think that's a commitment that the company's made. But first and foremost, we have to finish the original development. So as I say, you know, Grand Summer's coming along, the theatre will follow, the water park's coming along. We have a couple of retail boxes or a couple of F&B boxes that we want to fill out as well. So I think we finished the project, but then at the same time, we're also starting to invest in ourselves, whether it's maintenance or refurbishment or new products. We continue to invest.
I'm interested about what that vision is for transforming hospitality within NUSTAR's hotel complex, because you mentioned that this is your vision when you arrived 3 months ago.
Correct.
How are you coming to understand how this will happen?
Well, I think part of my role is guidance. You know, guiding the team to achieve the goals of the company. And when I say goals of the company, it's not just NUSTAR, but it's a broader JG Summit Group. Whilst we're privately held, we're still part of a bigger ecosystem. But I think first and foremost, I think we need to ensure that we've got the right set of lenses on the performance of the individual parts of the business, and that we're applying the right set of KPIs to determine performance. And when performance isn't there, we're taking rapid steps to address the issue and to pivot to growth rather than pivot to no growth.
People. I'm curious about how you've come to know the Filipino hospitality
I
and
love
how
it.
that kind
I love
of
it.
aligns with your vision,
Look,
transforming hospitality.
I have not met a more friendly group of people. You know, from the smiles around the property to the smiles just on the street. You know, it's a very, very happy environment. Um, my role is to ensure that the standards that we've set we continue to maintain. But I think given the nature of the Filipino employee, my job's easy. I just set the tone, set the aim, and you know the team that are eager to please and eager to strive to make that target.
Interested to know, though, the difference, if there is, and how you've come to know the Filipino working in the hospitality sector in developed markets.
Yep.
Because you've worked in Australia, Singapore. Did you find that they smiled a lot more or a lot less? You know, how would you differentiate if there was any difference?
Yeah, I think the ability to smile changes across different markets. You don't necessarily have that same degree of service mentality in developed regions that you have here. You know, the Filipino market is still service oriented, and I think it's that bodes very well for hospitality, because it means that we're not having to try and determine or try and find people who want to be in hospitality, because a lot of people want to be in hospitality in the Philippines.
They do, and they fit the role because
Fit the role.
they're very warm
Yep.
as a people. I'm curious before we go.
Yep.
You run an integrated resort, so I'm wondering what is an off day for you like? What's a vacation for you like? If every day is a vacation at work,
It's interesting. I
or
mean,
at least seems like.
my family stayed in Australia. I've got two kids in university, so it's probably easier to maintain. I take a break when they come over, or when my wife or my kids come over, and then we'll go. You know, we've been to Bohol. The kids went whale sharking or swim with the whale sharks last month over the Holy Weekend. So whatever we can do together, we will do. But off days, there's never an off day.
I just realized we're a whole place. I mean, the whole
That's it.
Philippines, we have more than 7,100 islands.
That's it.
Well,
We have explorations galore coming up.
I appreciate the time and the insights.
No, thank you very
so
much, Cathy. Thank you
for
so
joining
much.
us.
Thank you.
Shawn Knights of NUSTAR. Catch us again next Thursday at 9 p.m. Philippine Standard Time on One News. You can also check out the long conversation on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. And if you haven't done so, like or follow my social media pages. I'm Cathy Yang, and this is Thought Leaders.